So Game Informer dropped like a ton of information in an exclusive interview that they did in a hands-on segment that they did for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I want to explore everything that I learned from the interview. We will also further explore this as more news drops, so make sure you're subscribed, like the video, it helps the channel a ton, and share the video to keep the community informed. Now let's just jump right into this because it's a lot of content to cover. So first off, let's talk about the length of the game. It is approximately 80% side content. So you're going to be having a ton of side content in this game. The main story is going to be about 20%. They're saying that even simply focusing on the main storyline, they estimate that they will give players around 40 hours of gameplay. That's still a lot of gameplay. The side content can be about 60 hours, and if you're really dedicated to the side quests and you want to 100% this game, you're looking at 100+ hours of content. So already Rebirth is going to be a massive game with a lot of content to give to every player who goes out and decides that they want to explore it. Now, I also want to talk to you guys about this other piece of information with Nomura and the team talking about this return to the open world map, which we never got in Remake, and we haven't had in previous titles as well. Obviously, Final Fantasy 16 kind of hit it, semi-linear, kind of wide linear type of deal. 15 really went open world, which was great, but also had its flaws. So we've seen exploration of the open world map come back in a sense, but not to the scale that we had in previous Final Fantasy titles. And this time around, the team in Nomura were happy to hear the world map was back, in quotes. Ever since the world map disappeared, I really had this weird feeling, and I always thought it was a strange situation without a world map. I thought that you can't really have an RPG without a world map, and specifically for Final Fantasy VII to fully experience this world, we must have a world map. We can't be without it, and for me, this just really gives me hope that the team is just right on track in their vision and what they're doing. My problems with Remake, they're pretty, evident. Like I've said how I felt about some of the situations with Remake, but I feel like they're really doing a great job with Rebirth and really just hitting every point properly and making sure that they make a positive experience for everybody coming back, new and old fans. And this is exciting to me. The fact that we've already seen the open world and how much is there is extremely exciting, especially with the amount of side content that they're going to be packing in here for us to appreciate and take in the world of Final Fantasy VII. Now, there's a couple quotes here about, the side story and what's going to be pushing players, and I've highlighted some segments here, and one of them being, the story may be the driving force behind pushing players to side quests. To make side content more meaningful, Square Enix expanded the affinity system, and this is an interesting system. It takes your actions towards other characters and translates them into how certain scenes play out. So we could be seeing different dialogue options in different scenarios taking place based on the decisions you've made and how you've connected with other side characters. This is pretty big and something that I'm really happy to see. They go on to say, taking your action towards a character translates them into how certain scenes play out. And as I was saying, this is major. Rebirth side content is a critical driver for this mechanic. Each side quest brings in a secondary protagonist from the party. Completing a side quest improves Cloud's affinity with the given character. So the more you do quests with certain characters, and in fact, even doing synergy abilities for the first time will also increase affinity with characters. So there's other ways to also increase affinity, which gives you more options on how scenarios play out. And I feel like that's a great way to add to the game and make people want to go back and be like, okay, well, how's this scene going to play out with this character if I have a stronger bond with them? And this is definitely going to be a situation where it's going to add some replay value for a lot of people. So it's very welcomed, and I'm actually excited to see where they take this. Now, we've talked about side content quite a bit. Obviously, there's going to be additions that weren't in the original game, such as the Crow's Nest. And this town was not originally in the game, but it's a place where you can do side content. And this is something that we're probably going to explore quite a bit in the game. And we're also going to be meeting Kyrie again for the second time And in Rebirth, she's trying to get her new mercenary business off the ground. So she's going to pop up around the world, and it's going to be up to us to assist her. So there's going to be further options for more side content that are also going to explore more dialogue options and add more affinity to whatever character you want, which is just going to truly enhance our experience here. I think they really are hitting the nail on the head in terms of what players want from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And to dive a little deeper into the affinity systems and increases, I want to touch on something that Hamaguchi says. We wanted to give players the freedom of choice in deciding whether they wanted to dedicate themselves solely to the main storyline and like no side quests at all, or there might be people who want to delve into the side content and go really in depth into the characters' relationships and understand the story deeper, or just the balance of those two. We wanted to give that freedom. And so they are allowing many different playstyles here. And this affinity system is going to probably reward those who decide that they're going to do as much side content as possible, but also not making people who don't do those things feel that left out in terms of the main scenario, right? So I think, again, they are looking at it from all angles. All right, there are those people who are like, hey, I just want to experience the main story and run through it and enjoy it. And there are those that are like, hey, I want to experience everything this game has to offer, and I want it to feel like my time is well spent. I don't want it to be a fetch quest that just ends in, hey, here's some experience, here's some gil, here's some items, material, whatever it is, but rather, hey, here's some extra bits of interactions between characters and different things that could compile and compound into a different scenario coming up further on in the story that may have characters acting different around each other. So it's like, it's just another dimension to this game and adding more to it and more life to it and more character to it. And we'll talk more about what's being said about the deepening of relationships, as that is a major statement that's made in this article. Now, they also talk about Sephiroth, right? And obviously his impact and the differences and what their intentions are. They say, and Kitase says this, within the original game, Sephiroth is not seen very much within the world map, but in this title, we put this element forward, meaning we're going to see a lot of Sephiroth, just like we saw a lot of Sephiroth in Remake, even more so here, and they're really going to throw it in our faces, which some people will like and some people will not. I think depending on how it's presented, it could be done very, very well. They also, once again, talk about the ending of Rebirth, which is the Forgotten Capital, the events at the Forgotten Capital, as they put it. And so this is a big question mark, right? Some people are saying, hey, is it going to end the way the original did? Hey, are they going to make some changes or put some shocking twists there as well? And I want to talk about some stuff that Nomura had to say about this in question. Nomura says that the original Final Fantasy VII from the get-go had the central theme of life. And he says, I knew that we had to depict life and death within this title. Prior to Final Fantasy VII, there have been other titles where characters have experienced tragedy, but many of them have come back or been revived in some way. But I believe that loss is something that happens unexpectedly, and it's not something so dramatic or drawn out, but is something in which a person that you have just conversed with is suddenly gone and never to come back. I believe that that person who dies should not return in this title, and that is what we did with the original. So, in question here, is that going to be the same case with the new game, with Rebirth? Is that going to be a same situation where that is going to happen? I don't want to go too into detail because I know there are some new people to the Final Fantasy VII series that are not going to know what I'm talking about. But my thought is that they're probably going to execute it, but I think there's going to be some twists and turns, especially because we know there's some different stuff happening in the storyline. And this is the only way I see where they can kind of allow this scene to still happen, but also carry this character forward somehow, some way, and keep him included in the story. To close this off, I really want to just kind of like talk about this theme of relationships. You know, we talked about the synergy abilities. We talked about the central theme of Rebirth being the deepening of the relationships between the party members. And I think that this is going to become more apparent as to what they're talking about. the further we get into Rebirth, especially once we get our hands into it, right? Like right now, we're just talking about very vague statements at some points. But as we're playing, I think we're really going to see what they meant by that. And I personally am very excited to see where they go with this. There's so much mystery around this title, right? It's ironic because it's a remake, right? You wouldn't expect it to be mysterious, but there is some mystery around this title, which is exciting, but also concerning at the same time, depending on how you view it. I'm personally going to hold all judgment till I play the game for sure, but I'm down for this journey, and I'm very curious where they're going to take this. But let me know in the comments what you think about all this. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. If you did not enjoy the video, hit the dislike button. Subscribe if you're new, and share the video to keep the community informed. I thank y'all for watching. Take care.